Hello, my name is Patrick Taggart and I've been given this opportunity by Maria Staunton to share with you how we at Odyssey, which is based in England, we've got colleagues in Ireland and I think Finola McDermott might be with you today, and a couple of team members in America, and share with you really how we managed to build our sales strategy. And our organisation has been running since 2008, and in our world where we focus on very much around learning and development, in particular trying to get organisations to do their training in a certain fashion that allows them to prove and generate a return on investment at the end of the training that exceeds the cost of the initial investment. So it's quite a difficult market to work in really, and what we had to be very careful of is that we were not necessarily busy fools. We weren't chasing everybody in the market to see whether they would want to trade with us or not. So I spent 10 minutes, I've got a short presentation for you, work off a number of key points that we use at Odyssey in terms of how did we decide who we were going to target and what would our approach be once we did decide on those organisations, and how did we identify decision makers, what was our sales strategy when we actually got in front of the customer, and how did we make sure that our proposals were accepted more so than anybody else that we were competing against. So the first thing we did, and my background is very much HR and sales, and I've learned a lot along the way in sales from companies like the Royal Mail, from Alliance and Leicester, which is now Bank Santander, and electronics distribution organisations called RS Components. And I learned a lot in sales that I've now actually managed to sort of impart to my colleagues across the organisation and the team. The first thing I would say is we need to think about how many people are actually making decisions in those organisations that we're chatting to. And the statistics show that if you're talking to an organisation that may have less than 200 people, I think it's 3.5 people that make decisions in those organisations, key decisions. And if you're looking at organisations with maybe 2,000 plus staff, there's approximately, on average, 6.5 people that will be around the table making a decision as to probably whether they buy your services or not. Sadly, in reality though, salespeople speak with no more than 1 or 2 people in that organisation. So where they realise there's possibly 6.5 people, 6 to 7 people making a decision, and they're only talking to 1 or 2, the risks are that they won't be able to influence the decision makers. Or one of your competitors may know 3 or 4 and you only know 1 or 2, which puts you at a disadvantage. So we work hard at making sure that we know more than one person in an organisation or have some form of relationship with them. The second thing is, how do we actually do that then? We use things like LinkedIn, Twitter, networking, and we make sure that we understand their role in the decision making process. And it covers a number of things really. It covers whether that person would be a decision maker, whether it would be a user of our products or services, or they would be an influencer within the organisation. And we have what we call a matrix, and it's a relationship matrix grid. And we would write down the names of the people that we know, we would put a little coding system against them. Are they a decision maker, a user, an influencer? Are they for or against our sort of business, our angle, our sort of concept, us in general? And would they champion us in the organisation? The other thing we try and find out is who might influence them or who they may be able to influence as well. And we build up a bit of a picture that helps us, and we have it's called a key player summary. And what we'll do with that then really, we will review it every sort of month when we have our sales meetings and see, are our relationships better than before? Are they more for us now than they were before, etc., etc. And we have a fortnightly sales Skype call where Americans, the Irish, the UK will all get on board, and we'll have a look at precisely where we are with our development of the customer base. Once we've done that, then really those 2 things are focusing on, do we know enough people and do they rate us? Are they interested in us, and would they champion our kind of proposals in their organisations? We look at what we do actually when we're with them, and we work off a model, a questioning model called IDEA. And actually what it stands for is, the I stands for information. So all of us focus on getting as much information about our customer as we possibly can. And then we start to try and find out what aspects in their organisation they're dissatisfied with. So the D, funny enough, is dissatisfaction. So we get a conversation going where we start to understand their problems, really the things that frustrate them. The third point, and probably one that's often missed in sales, is the E in the term idea stands for the effect. And so it's what effect does their level of dissatisfaction have on maybe them, the business, their customers, their reputation, their colleagues, the team, the potential to grow their business. Because once we are able to understand that there are serious effects or consequences of their dissatisfaction, it makes it easier for us then to put a proposal on the table. And the idea, the last part obviously, is agreement. So if we're good at getting information and we understand their levels of dissatisfaction and they understand the effect of staying with that level of dissatisfaction, it makes it a lot easier for us to try and get an agreement after that meeting. The other thing we would do then, once we've got to that stage, we use a concept, I'm sure you'll be very familiar with it, it's called a sales value proposition. And the sales value proposition is basically 3 different steps really. It's their problem, we articulate their problem to them to make sure that we've got a good understanding of it. So what you're telling us at the moment, these are the things that frustrate you in your organisation, these are the things that are holding your organisation back. So we're very good at actually talking and summarising the problem. At that point, when we get agreement to that, we actually put our proposal on the table, which is our solution really. So we'll get an understanding of their problem, then we will put on our solution to them. But whenever we put a solution on the table, we always wrap it up with a form of benefits. So we might talk about the return on investment that comes with our solution. We might talk about a differentiator, and so why would they take our solution over anybody else they may be chatting to? And we're very good at actually building up our case studies and success stories. So if we're doing any work with customers, if we do any leadership, any coaching programs, any sales training, we'll do little things like we'll get photographs at the end of the sessions and we'll ask them if they're happy for us to use that on our Twitter feed, on our case studies. So then when we're talking to other organisations, when we give them our sales value proposition, we've got anecdotal evidence of how we've done something similar for other organisations. And it is very important that you are able to put something on the table that has relevance to them or hits a chord with them, and they sort of increases your chances of them accepting your proposal, and it's about generating trust. So in summary, really what we do is we know there's a number of decision makers in organisations. We work hard at playing those statistics and building relationships that may be better than anybody else that talks to them. Then we build a sort of relationship matrix in the organisation, and we know who we work with, whether they're for or against us, who they can influence, who influences them. Our questioning methodology is, as I described, it's IDEA, which is about getting information first and foremost, understanding their level of dissatisfaction or problem, the effect of staying and leaving that problem in place takes us to agreement, and then we wrap it up with a decent sales value proposition, which, as I said, is about we articulate their problem, our solution, and the benefits that come with that solution. And I think really the last thing we work on is we've got some statistics again that show our chances of getting new business if we go in direct, or we get an introduction from within the organisation, or we get an introduction from outside the organisation. If we go in direct, your chances are 20% or possibly 25% if you use a letter and get them to talk to you about that letter and the contents at some point in the future. If we can get an introduction from within the organisation, there's an 85% chance that we will get round the table for a coffee to try and find out what issues they've got and how we can help them. And if we can get an introduction from somebody outside the organisation but who knows them, it's about a 60% chance. So again, we're very careful at thinking that we don't want to chase new business all the time. We have to think about who do we know in the organisations, who do we know in our network that might understand our business and might introduce us. And if we can go in direct, as I said, it's 85%. If it's a second stage introduction, it's 60%. It's a lot more successful than going in cold. and I'm sure you'll probably experience that the cold is a long slog. The pipeline is months and months and months and months, and at that point your business could be in trouble. So it's really important that you think about your network and who may be decent enough to make an introduction. So I hope that's given you a flavour of how we've built our sales strategy at Odyssey and how we work together every fortnight to make sure that we sort of comply with these processes and techniques. And I really look forward to talking to you all when we have the 15-minute question and answer session, and we can go into this in much more depth. We run these training programs over 2 days and sometimes 4 days, so there is a lot of information that people need to be very successful in the sales environment. But certainly when we do the 15-minute phone call, then we can go into a great more depth, and I really look forward to doing that. Thank you.